In this recording, I really want to begin the process of challenging you teachers out there with regard to your dominant questioning techniques, or what I've referred to here as questioning protocols. And I am absolutely confident that there's many of you out there, probably all of you out there listening and watching this video, who are, really effective in the classroom, and good for you. But I want us to imagine a scenario where this is a bit like us, and our sort of teacher brain has come up with some brilliant idea for a question. Okay, so we've come up with a question that we want to ask our students, and let's also make an assumption that our students are, they're over here, and somehow they're waiting for us to ask a question. So I want to quickly sketch you, a whole bunch of students, a whole bunch of young people, and I'm kind of putting them in lines because I suppose in a more traditional setup, that's how we do it, right? I mean, I think it's something we desperately need to challenge and to ask ourselves a question about why we actually do that. But nevertheless, let's just have these young people or these students in some kind of rank and file system. So we've got this question, this teacher's got this question, and let's say it's an absolutely magnificent question. So this is going to be a brilliant question. Now, the question I want to ask you guys is, how can we make sure that this magnificent question has the most impact possible in the most efficient timescale as possible? Now, I suppose in my most typical classroom behaviour, if I'm being really honest, what I would have done is I would have thought of this question, I'd have been really excited about this question, and I'd have asked this question to one of these individuals. So let's just say, for example, that I get that question and I decide, okay, here goes my question, and I'm going to ask it to this young person here. Well, what assumptions can we make about this scenario? Assumption number one is that we can only assume that only one person is challenged by that question. And that's if the question is perfect, right? Only one person is challenged by that question. It's fair to assume that others may have listened to it and thought, can I answer that? And those of us that are good at questioning would almost certainly have achieved that. But the only thing that we can guarantee is that only one person is directly challenged by that question. And the other thing we've got to acknowledge as well is that the only resources available to that young person are their own ideas. They only have their own ideas. Okay, so we have to say as well that, let's say that, for argument's sake, the question takes 30 seconds to ask, and a total of 30 seconds to ask and to get a reply. That is going to be 30 seconds of a lesson period that has provoked that amount of productivity or that amount of outcome. We've also got to establish that the other, I don't know how many people I've put in here, but the other 23 people, I think I've got 24 in the image here, the other 23 students potentially going unprovoked between that period. So I suppose it's quite likely that, the course of a lesson, we might ask something like 5 questions. Okay, so we might ask that person, we might ask that person, we might ask one to that person, and we might ask one to that person. So we end up effectively provoking 5 people with 5 questions and kind of hoping that others develop something or pick something up along the way. What I want to provoke you with is to think, is there a better way? Is there a more efficient way of doing this? Accepting that this process alone is going to take 2.5 minutes out of our lesson for that level of productivity. Is that a good investment of time? Is that the way to ask questions? Is this the way to structure our classroom? And does this create or help to develop active, owned learnership in our sort of learner communities, in our classes? So I'm not going to try and start answering those questions within this particular structure, within this particular recording. I will in the ones that are going to follow immediately after this, but I'm going to be provocative, and I'm going to say that this is not effective and not efficient. Not effective and not efficient. Certainly not as effective or as efficient as it can be. And it's kind of interesting, really. So I don't know what you found in your experiences in teaching, but myself, having worked in the British education system for 15 years, if I'd have kind of used a load of questions and I targeted students with those questions. Often, if people are watching my lessons, like the process of targeting seems to be good enough. Well, I'm saying no, let's think about another way. Let's think about a way that somehow within a similar time frame, we've got a situation where every question provokes every single learner every single time, and we get collaboration of ideas between one group of students or one individual student and another group of students. I think that would be a far more efficient way, and I'm going to try and go about in the lessons to come, kind of provoking those ideas and giving you some ideas as to how you might go about trying to achieve that. Thank you for listening. I'm going to finish the video here and move on to the next one, where it's going to start answering some of the actual possible solutions to this challenge. Thanks for listening.